So, folks, we got to talk about ICE, because ICE, every time you think we've hit the bottom of the barrel with ICE, we keep going lower. Like, these fascist brown shirt thugs have been spread through our society, and the only solution to dealing with them is to abolish the entirety of the agency. Like, that's it. There's nothing to salvage here. They're effectively terroristic squads that are roaming around the entire country in masks and terrorizing people. You know, they've killed multiple people over the last week. They killed another person in ICE detention by refusing medically necessary medications over the last few days as well. And we're gonna talk about all this, but like Donald Trump let's back up. In the wake of the recent ICE murders in Maine, there had been a directive coming down from the top for ICE to stop their roadside pullovers because it was endangering the general public. And I guess earlier today, Donald Trump personally stepped in and ordered for those those traffic stops to resume. Here's AOC giving her thoughts on that real quick. You know, prospective potential 2028 presidential nominee here.
Thank you.
Congressman, what are your thoughts about the Trump administration immediately reversing itself on, because yesterday they said they were going to reverse on ICE and vehicle stops. Then President Trump puts out a statement saying they're going to continue. What are your thoughts on that?
This is the guy that said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and people would still support him. And now he has an agency shooting people out in the street, and at this point, it's practically a campaign promise from this guy. It's atrocious.
Mr. Mullen said that he was going to try to get the DHS off the front page. Well, now it's on the front page for 2 killings. And, you know, we were talking yesterday about Senator Collins and like how she was able to get Mark Wayne while on the phone. What do you make about the fact that ICE is still doing this? Because you said this wasn't going on when there was no money for ICE, no money for...
I mean, I think oftentimes when we see an institution, the outcome of that institution, when it's repeated and sustained and reproduced, oftentimes ends up being either overtly or subvertly the purpose of it. And this administration campaigned on cruelty and violence against immigrants, and that's what they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, he campaigned on the idea that he could kill people and get away with it, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. But not only that, I will say, credit where credit is due, the Associated Press is doing some good journalism here, okay? I want to play this for you guys, because it's interesting to say the least.
David, back in November, brought up that he had accepted a job with ICE. I thought that it was just a delusional thing, because I'm used to him talking crazy, so to speak. So I said, yeah, sure you are, buddy, you know? I didn't realize that he was actually working for ICE until yesterday, and I was completely shocked because I'm like, how do you keep getting into these jobs where you're around guns all the time? I asked him what was going on. He told me that I don't need to be answering questions for anybody, that all I needed to know was that it was a justified shooting and that he did do it. And he claimed that this man had tried to run him over. And I said, I don't see that in anything, and I've watched it from all angles. All I seen is how the car was going in circle after the fact. And then he's like, well, I need you to lie about my character because this is what it comes down to is my character. I don't want you talking about any of the abuse in our relationship. Like, this is literally about me, actually. I told him that I was not going to lie for him, that I've waited years to speak my truth. I've been silenced long enough, and now I need to come out with everything because a man lost his life. It was abuse, not only to me, but to our daughter. And even being divorced from him, I've dealt with harassing phone calls, threats of him wanting to kill me. I believe that this man was murdered. I believe that David's mental health played a part in what happened. I think what happened was he was standing there during that operation, had a PTSD moment and hit fight or flight mode. And unfortunately, a man lost his life due to it.
Yeah, so basically AOC's right. Trump is just hiring deranged killers in order to go around the country killing folks. Like, this guy has a history of abusing his daughter, has a history of abusing his wife, and now has been given a gun and sent into random communities across the country and is now killing people, shooting folks dead. It's awful. Here's the AP reporting in more depth. David Broilette has a history of terrifying and violent behavior, according to those relatives. They accuse him of attacking women in his life over the years, and one shared a voicemail with the AP from last winter in which he told her he thought someone should slit her throat. Broilette's troubling past further challenges how thoroughly the Department of Homeland Security has vetted recruits, and we'll get to that in a minute, as it went on a hiring spree to help carry out President Trump's immigration crackdown. At least 10 people have died in encounters with immigration agents since Trump launched the crackdown after taking office, including 25-year-old Johann Sebastian Duran Guerrero, a Colombian national who was shot and killed by Broilette on Monday while in his car near his home in coastal Maine city of Biddeford. I do want to mention, I believe that was the incident where he was shot and killed in front of his 3-year-old daughter. Broilette, 37, told his ex-wife Ashley late last year that he had been hired by ICE. She said that because of his long history of psychiatric issues, she thought he was having a mental health episode and she didn't believe him. She didn't realize he'd been telling the truth until last week. Because again, he has a history of having mental breaks from reality. This isn't he was just like, no one knew about this. No, this is stuff that should have come up if Homeland Security was actually doing vetting around his background. You know? David and Ashley Broilette were high school sweethearts who got married in 2007. She divorced him in 2009 because he'd become physically violent with her, which began after she got pregnant with their daughter. According to Ashley, he once threw boiling water at her while she was holding their child, an incident her mother, Avis Collins, also recounted. The abuse continued after she left him. Hundreds of family court records obtained from the Augusta District Court Clerk's office detail years of allegations of physical and verbal abuse raised by his second ex-wife on behalf of herself and his daughters. The ex-wife, whom AP is not identifying because she fears retaliation, alleged that he had stalked and harassed her physically and verbally abused his daughter, according to multiple requests for temporary protection orders. Broilette tackled his teenage daughter and smashed spaghetti in her hair, and during another outburst, he dragged his daughter around the house as she cried, she said. They gave this guy a gun and a badge. Winter Sorrow in Twitch and YouTube chat says it's like they don't vet at all, or they purposely vet for the worst people. Now, without going into even more of the terrible details of this story, we'll get to that in a minute. But it's worth noting here. Oh wait, actually, we'll get to it now. ICE went on a hiring spree. Sterling credentials were not required. AP investigation finds. This is from just today. Or was updated just today. Their backgrounds stand out, and not in a good way. 2 bankruptcies, 6 law enforcement jobs in 3 years, an allegation of lying in a police report to justify a felony charge against an innocent woman, an incident that led to a $75,000 settlement and criticism of his integrity. A third job candidate once failed to graduate from a police academy, then lasted only 3 weeks in his job as a police officer. Their common bond, all were hired by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement during an unprecedented hiring spree. 12,000 new officers and special agents to double its force after the agency received a $75 billion windfall from Congress. They are not, in fact, vetting these people. They do not give a shit. They're just hiring warm bodies to hold guns and do what they're told. The agency has said the majority of new hires are police and military veterans, but evidence is mounting that applicants with questionable histories were either not fully vetted before they were brought on board or hired in spite of their past, an investigation by the AP found. On Thursday, prosecutors announced felony assault charges against an ICE officer, Gregory Donald Morgan Jr., for allegedly pointing a handgun at the occupants of a car after pulling alongside them on a Minneapolis area highway in February. Court records show Morgan had a history of financial problems, and the police department in Alexandria, Virginia said he was an entry-level recruit for 6 weeks in 2022, but never completed its police academy. These are guys who couldn't cut it as police officers. It's deeply troubling. The AP focused on more than 40 officers who recently made public their new jobs as ICE officers on LinkedIn pages, using public records to track their backgrounds. All but one were male. While most of them had conventional qualifications as former correctional officers, security guards, and military veterans and police officers, it's unclear how many should have potentially been disqualified because AP did not have access to their full personnel files. But several had histories of unpaid debts that resulted in legal action. 2 had filed for bankruptcy. 3 others had faced lawsuits that alleged misconduct in prior law enforcement jobs. DHS is trying to wipe this all up by saying, their vetting is an ongoing process. Vetting is supposed to happen before you actually hire them. You don't continue to vet someone after you've hired them. You already hired them. Everything is terrible. And if you think it can't get worse, it can. Here is a decision from a Trump judge earlier today. A couple excerpts. The Sixth Circuit has reiterated that for I gotta be honest, I don't know what this little symbol is. 1226 E-bars challenges that ask the court to reweigh the evidence underlying a bond decision or second-guess the immigration judge's discretionary judgment. See Taylor v. Hott, and we'll skip around here. The cited case, Taylor v. Hott, is not located at the identified page of the federal appendix. Indeed, page 387 is contained within a different opinion, Atkins v. CGI Tax and Souls, Inc., which is about commercial arbitration, not immigration bond determinations. In its research, the court was unable to identify a Sixth Circuit case with the caption Taylor v. Hott or any federal case containing the quoted language. Thus, it seems this citation was likely produced by generative artificial intelligence, AI. It should be obvious that any attorney who uses AI must scrupulously review its work product to ensure that the cited cases exist and that the citations accurately and fairly represent the underlying case law. The duty of candor towards this tribunal demands no less. Although the court will not presently impose sanctions for this conduct, it goes without saying the government must ensure its future filings with this court do not include non-existent case law. Now, why did I just read you that excerpt from a Trump judge in Michigan? It's specifically because the lawyers representing the government in ICE cases are using AI hallucinations to justify indefinitely detaining these people. They are using AI hallucinations to keep people in concentration camps. That's where we're at. Just full-on fabricating evidence. And it should be worth noting that the basic default position of the Trump administration is that they are effectively saying, well, the federal law dictates that we can indefinitely imprison undocumented people. That the law just doesn't apply to undocumented people. They don't have any due process rights. They don't have any right to a hearing. They don't have any rights whatsoever. And it's worth noting, as always, that when the government begins carving out these exceptions, it is in an effort to form a kind of beachhead, a legal beachhead, from which they can expand, to create more carve-outs for other groups of people to whom law does not apply, who have no due process rights. This is the erosion of legal rights in this country. That is what the effort is trying to do. We're having that now be supercharged with AI. And it's worth noting also that when we're talking about these ICE detention facilities where these people are being kept indefinitely, the conditions are getting worse. This is also from yesterday. Detainees at ICE facility in Texas report frequent beatings and other human rights abuses. The 84-page report issued jointly Wednesday by Human Rights Watch and the American Civil Liberties Union says that dozens of people reported being beaten or witnessed others being beaten. This includes people at Camp East Montana and Fort Bliss, which many of you may already know. Many people there are also denied medically necessary care. As we know from previous reporting, like Public Notice has done a good reporting around this, but it turns out ICE has not been paying for any kind of medical care whatsoever. They've just had a blanket proposal to deny anyone and everyone their medication and wait until there is like a medical crisis and then try to ship them to an emergency room somewhere. This is what a concentration camp is. They're given inedible food. They are kept in squalid conditions. They are cut off from the world, prevented from contacting their legal representatives or their families. Of the 71 detainees contacted over a 5-month period, 64, about 90% of those interviewed, said they had either personally been assaulted by the staff or had seen others physically abused. 90%. That's where we're at. And, if you think things might be getting better anytime soon, when it comes to ICE, you got folks like Tom Homan making sure that he can try and destroy any sliver of hope as he goes on television.
But it all goes back to the Dems who want to continually attack ICE and tell people to evade them, tell people don't comply, tell people to resist, and tell people ICE isn't real law enforcement agency. You and I talked about this 1.5 years ago, Laura. I said if the hateful rhetoric didn't stop, there will be bloodshed. And I'm saying it right now. There's still going to be more bloodshed unless they shut their mouth and let ICE enforce the laws that they enacted. But
gigantic dog with a mouthful of peanut butter and a history of spousal abuse over here. This goddamn genocidal thumb is right, Comrade Girl 2018, is over here basically saying what every abuser says. You're making us hurt you. All of you people on social media being mean, all of you protesters, you're making ICE kill people. Look what you made me do, indeed. It's really disgusting. But they're doing it not about, like, spousal abuse. They're doing it about full-on fucking murders in broad daylight on camera. When I talk about the fact that every single ICE agent, every single ICE bureaucrat, every single ICE member of leadership, every single person at DHS that allowed this to happen, every single contractor that agreed to work with ICE and took money from ICE, every single CEO of every single private prison corporation that benefited from ICE and who decided to cooperate with these ICE concentration camps, every single one of these motherfuckers needs to go in front of a court of law and account for what the fuck they did. This is an atrocity. This is a crime against the American people. It's a crime against the American conscience. And it is truly despicable behavior. These people need to rot inside of a prison cell. And honestly, people in this country aren't going to stop being angry until they see that kind of justice be done. It's so gross. It is so fucking gross. And I see you little shits in the vertical chat talking about, like, well, if you're here illegally, you need to be deported, and so, like, it's okay if we put you in a concentration camp because we're, like, big time stupid heads. Like, you guys are morons. Literal morons. The level of violation of our laws in America is on par with when you guys fucking park your car wrong. When you guys do, like, get, like, a parking ticket, when you overstay your meter, that's the same level of violation as, like, being in this country while undocumented. And the idea that, well, those guys did a different kind of minor violation, and so they should be put into concentration camps and murdered by secret police officers roaming the streets in masks, is fucking lunacy. It's a lunatic idea. And y'all are over here just, like, chuckling it up. It's grotesque. It's grotesque. And you think it's funny until it fucking happens to you. until these fucking members of the US government, the jackbooted thugs you've talked about being willing and able to fight your entire lives. That's why you guys have those gigantic, MAGA arsenals. You've been Second Amendment your entire life to fight the overreach of a tyrannical government. And the second there is a goddamn secret police force, full on with ski masks, abducting people from their homes, including, by the way, full goddamn US citizens breaking in their doors trying to abduct them. The second that happens, you guys are out there licking their fucking boots. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. The thing that blows me away is how hollow all of the conservatives I've ever known, how hollow your beliefs were. How fucking absent of substance. Because my entire life, every conservative in rural America was telling me, I need these guns to fight the tyranny of the government. I need these guns to fight government overreach. I am absolutely, positively opposed to tyranny. Obviously Hitler was wrong. Obviously, secret police are authoritarian shits, and we need to oppose that and fight that in this country. And the second it happens, you all are out there fucking, just happy as pig in mud at the fact that these jackbooted thugs want to walk all over you. And you think, oh, it won't happen to me. These masked guys won't affect me because I live out in the countryside. And you stupid assholes, they operate out there too. We saw it in Minnesota, by the way. They operated in the city until folks got too organized in the city, and then they made it out into the countryside, and suddenly your local area was terrorized. Suddenly you guys were getting pulled over by ICE. Suddenly some of you guys were being sent to local penitentiaries. Now you guys were losing your neighbors. And suddenly you didn't like it quite as much. Suddenly you guys didn't like it as much. And it's sickening to me. It's sickening to me to see you all justify these fucking atrocities. Anyway, I think the best way to kind of cap my rage is to show how it is being manifested here in Minnesota in the DFL. I want to highlight this speech that was put together, that was released by the Minnesota House DFL. It's been doing the rounds here in Minnesota. But the speech is from Representative Aisha Gomez, state-level politician. And I encourage you all to check this out.
It's been hard to hear you call my constituents names: domestic terrorists, insurrectionists, paid protesters. But I realized that underneath my anger at you, what I really feel for you is actually pity. I feel sad for you that you would look at these people, regular, ordinary, extraordinary people, in the face of fear, stepping through it and taking action to stand up for each other. I pity you. I pity that you look at my community and you see paid protesters, because what that betrays is nothing about us and everything about you. Because to look at us and see paid protesters betrays that you cannot imagine caring for and loving each other enough. You cannot conceive of us loving our neighbors so much that we would actually do something for them. You see paid protesters. It betrays that you couldn't conceive, actually, of people who care so deeply about the fundamental rights guaranteed to us by the Constitution that they would actually fight for them. And so I pity you. You have trumpeted your own commitment to patriotism and against government tyranny, that your eyes are so blinded to the demonstration of patriotism and the struggle against government tyranny that every other person in the world, it seems like, has recognized besides y'all.
And that truly echoes, I think, the sentiment that so many people here in Minnesota share, which is that we are fucking furious. Operation Metro Surge has been done for months now. ICE is still here. but they're operating on a much lower profile because people here are still fucking angry. And we are going to remain angry until we get some kind of justice, some semblance of justice, and the entire wretched agency and all of its support structure, all of its funding are stripped and melted down for parts. And at the end of the day, I do pity those of you in MAGA, because you've been so isolated, so atomized from your fellow human beings that you can't imagine caring about other people that are outside of your, 2-mile radius. Well, outside my 2-mile radius, there are millions of people. The 2 miles around me encompass hundreds of thousands of lives. And I give a shit about them. And that's something that some people in MAGA just can't understand. The idea that you might care about people outside of those who look like you, outside of those who think like you, the idea that you might give a shit. And their worlds are so fucking small. And I pity them. I pity their mediocre, self-imposed isolation. I pity them for being small. I pity them for their mindset. What a poor life to lead. And at the end of the day, the fundamental problem, the fundamental reason they are drawn towards fascism is because there are more people like me who give a shit about their neighbors and are willing to stand up for their neighbors than there are of these small-minded and isolated and lonely and scared and angry individuals. So anyway, folks, get organized. Join your local Dems. Kick out any Democrat that at this point cannot say, abolish ICE. Kick them out. They got to be done. Join your local DSA. Organize working people. Make an effective working class coalition in your area. You can do it. And if you need help taking your first steps to do it, join our Discord. Reach out to GamerG for help with joining your local DSA. Reach out to Dragonfly for help joining your local Dems. And get involved. We can also give you help on how to organize more effectively. We can get you into community with other folks in this community who've stepped up and are doing the work of organizing. We can help you be part of that. So, all that being said, folks, got anything out of this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. And that comment can absolutely be fuck ICE. Last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy, non-tucking lingerie. Check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. And we just got our whole restock and a new color, so go check that out. Link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.